Let's call this Ethics and Election Meeting to order. It is Wednesday, March 27th, about 5 minutes after noon, and let's have some introductions. We'll start with Mr. Traney.
Dick Traney.
Amy Stromeyer.
Dean Gates. Forrest Dunbar.
Barbara Jones.
Amy Silver.
And I'm Chair Pete Peterson. So let's Dee Ennis. Thanks, Dee. And so let's have a little update about vote by mail, seeing as how we're less than a week away from the final election day.
Yes, we are at E-7, and I'll just tell you a couple of things. I'm going to just show you this. We had a little steam huddle yesterday to talk about the numbers, and they're really exciting. So as of last Friday, we had 20,730 envelopes returned, and now, as yesterday, we had 30,000. And as of Friday, there was 10,934 that had finished spine sorts, so they were in the pool to be opened. And what we discovered, we had 52 signature cure letters. So only 52 people
Out of all those.
Out of all of these. And so that is a 99.995% acceptance rate. So
52 out of the 10,000 or 52 out of the 30,000?
52 out of the 10,000.
Okay.
Great.
So I will tell you one of the things that has been really awesome, and I know we do have concerns about the state voter registration database, but we have lots of people who voted that did not have a reference signature with the state, probably 200 or 300. And what is important about that is those people have not voted in the last 4 years. And those people are voting now.
So we're enfranchising them.
We are. And one of the state officials commented that it looked like a group of older Alaskans. People who have been here for a while, or based on some other characteristics, she thought they were older. The state took that list before we had to do letters, turned it around in one day, and provided all of those reference signatures. They went to the DMV, they went to their database, they provided them for us.
Wow.
So that's kept this number really low. So, other numbers, this one, 93 tubs of return mail, and there's about 250 envelopes in a tub. So we're over 23,000 returned envelopes as undeliverable. And our plan is to run those envelopes through the system, capture the data on the envelope, and then provide that electronically to the state so that they can update the voter registration database. Otherwise, we're going to be sending another 20,000 envelopes next year.
We don't want to do that.
And
Right.
I think part of this was that issue originally. We did not want to send to the voters with the category LM list maintenance, and a lot of them are in this category, but we knew that some active registered voters who have voted are in this category, so we declined and agreed with your position that we wanted to send to those voters. So we'll keep working on that number.
So,
Yes.
so that's what I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Dunbar.
Thank you. So that's about 20,000, 23,000 that were returned to us. So to summarize, you're going to provide it to the state, and the state will cross-reference that with. Well, I mean, here's the thing. We're going through the first full year of PFD automatic voter registration. So by the end of this year, the state should have a much better, more up-to-date voter registration system with new addresses, right?
I think the state might argue with you about that, and we can discuss that separately.
Is the state not using PFD automatic voter registration as required by the ballot initiative?
Okay, here is my understanding. PFD voter, when you sign up for PFD voter, automatically deposited to your bank account. So the thing that you care about is you care to make sure that your bank account is right and that you file on time. You do not care about your address or your signatures. So PFD voter has not been the best data for the state. In fact, some of it is worse than their data.
Gotcha. Because people aren't providing the
They're only
accurate.
concerned about the bank account.
Yeah, we don't
Gotcha.
have to update
That's really
that.
It's all about the money.
Yeah, so this is really important that we're able to, and we haven't had an agreement with the state about this yet.
Right,
and we
right.
have to figure out the software to make sure we can run those through, and then the state can take that file, and then that they would upload those as undeliverable. So they would change their status code from LM or whatever it is to UN.
Yeah.
All right? So we think that's important because it'll save us money next year. However, as Mr. Traney frequently says, that voter registration database is getting cleaned up.
Yeah.
Okay, what other numbers do we have?
Well, I just wanted to note for the record that Mr. Constant joined us.
Great. This number, 1076, number of telephone calls to the call center last week. Really amazing job those people are doing. We sit and listen to this, and you know what kind of calls they are. Some of them are good. A lot of them are really tough calls, and they're doing an awesome job over there. And that leads to this number, 978, 674, 1402, 3054. These are the number of absentee applications we did. So those are people who had a temporary address change. 674 is the number of replacement ballots we did. 1402 is the delta between the first state download on March 1st, and then we did a second state download, and it's all the people who changed something between March 1st and March 4th, which is the deadline. So you heard about people who got duplicates. Those are those people, 1402. There are some news in there, but it was on the news that a gentleman complained about getting he went into the state's online system, he changed his name from Rich to Richard, and he also changed his residence address. So anybody that made a change, it didn't matter if you added a pound sign in front of your apartment number, you got a replacement ballot, because we couldn't go through those and analyze what those changes were.
Mr. Dunbar?
So how do you, let's say somebody had changed it from Rich to Richard,
Yep.
and they voted both ballots. How do
Yep.
you catch and kick out one of them?
Well, because what happened is,
Not in that particular case, but
right?
in general.
That's a perfect case. We had 194,000 ballots that we mailed from K&H. And then we sent out all of these ballots right here. And what happened is we went into K&H and voided the original that went from K&H and issued this one instead. So one of those ballots would have been void. Do you want to grab a replacement flyer? So one of those ballots would have been voided. So he couldn't have voted for both because one would have kicked out as void.
So, yes, to follow up, Mr. Chairman. So I've heard a few of these stories, and no one has mentioned that one of them was marked void.
You know what? It wasn't marked void, but instead.
Or even that the other one was marked
There's red,
replacement.
right.
Yep.
So, can we confirm that everybody that got two got one of these?
Every single person who got two got one of these. In fact, some of these people
Then how
didn't. Anyone who got a replacement or that got one of those flyers. And the gentleman that called, he opened his ballot package and that was in there.
Oh, I got you. So you wouldn't know that until you actually opened the package.
Right, and some people called and said, I got them mixed up. And so then we helped them figure out which was the correct one.
What do you mean they got them mixed up? You mean the two ballots that got mixed up? They put it in the wrong envelope or something?
So what they ended up with is they have an outer envelope, an inner envelope, a ballot, instructions and then the replacement. So they had all this paper and they got it mixed up. So they didn't know which one to return. So I think I'm going to answer your question. I talked to the King County Election Administrator yesterday, and she said they spray it on the front of the envelope. This is your replacement ballot. And I think we need to do that next year.
It's a good lesson learned. Is there some kind of Rich and Richard Smith? Well, let's say that's the person's name. Is there some additional Isn't there some additional voter number?
State voter ID.
Right. So if somehow both ballots had made it through and got to our machine or whatever, then couldn't we have cross-referenced and said, okay, this ID number voted twice? Is there anything like that?
That is almost exactly how it works. Every individual, so the 194,000, were assigned a ballot package ID. Each of us has a unique ballot package ID. It's not confidential, but it's a ballot package ID.
Yeah.
And it's on the outside of your envelope. So when you changed your name from Forrest to whatever, then we're going to void the original, and we're going to issue you a new ballot package ID. So we can tell it by the ballot package ID.
Okay.
So it's the same thing for us, it's just that we can't go by VIN or VID. We're not using that because it's scrambled in that ballot package ID. We know what ballot package ID is assigned to which voter, but we're not running by the voter ID number. Essentially we are, but we're using a different number because that's confidential.
And have we gotten any calls in the call center? People say like, no, genuinely, I've gotten two ballots or two packets with two different IDs. You know.
No one has quite figured it out to that extent, but they're figuring it out. We have a slightly different issue that I think we have 19 people who have returned the original ballot package ID, and so they've gotten or are getting a letter that says you voted the void and you need to vote the original.
Avoid the void.
Right, and we don't want to void the void because we're trying to be consistent, and so we've done a couple of things. I provided the challenge list to a couple of people. They've asked for it, and what we have decided is that we're going to go to the Election Commission and we're going to say these ballot packages were void. However, these people never returned the original, so we recommend to the commission that you count these voided ballot packages. So that's one thing that we're going to do. And we've told the groups that have requested that information that that's what our policy is going to be. The problem is we don't want to willy-nilly or without a process start unvoiding things. We wanted to be consistent, and the consistency required us to void those, and we're sending them a letter. Okay?
Just for the record, I just wanted to note that Mr. Croft had joined us.
Okay, so now I have a really good news number. So this is an amazing number. 3,054 replacements and absentee ballots. Last year, this was as of last Friday. Last year we did 2,500. We've done over 3,000 this year.
What's that number again? I'm sorry for getting it.
This is absentee, replacement, and then this is the catch-up file from of people who changed something with the state of Alaska. So we have mailed out about 3,054 replacement or absentee ballots to temporary addresses. So pretty amazing that these people did that.
Have you had anyone call and say, I need a replacement ballot, I spilled coffee on it, my dog ate it, or whatever, like that yet?
It was hot sauce.
Hot sauce?
Yep.
Because
There was one dog ate it.
Because they told us from Washington State, the thing that they were most surprised about the first election they had by mail down there was the number of people who ruined their ballot with a various number of accident things.
So not a problem, we just reissue them. But I really like this number right here, only 3. And the only 3 number is the number of people who got a letter and a replacement ballot because one person included 2 ballots in the envelope and 2 ballot envelopes were empty. So those people, we don't know who the 2 were, we only know who one of them was. And we sent that person a replacement ballot and the other 2 replacement ballots. So I think our outreach and education did a good job about that.
Mr. Trainee?
Remember how's the machine working, checking weight on everything coming in and working correctly?
Very, very good. We're having what I would say some learning issues, but outside of that, it's a new system we're learning. But I did just check in with Dennis and told him we're meeting, and I said, so, do you have anything to say to him? How are we doing? He said, fine. I said, fine? He said, okay, we're doing great. We're doing great. Really, really good.
All right.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Super.
And what was the tally today of ballots in hand?
Did you know what? I ran the report and I just mentioned that we hadn't done any fine sort for the meeting. We just were doing, and they're doing fine sort now, so if you'd like, I can do a report before you leave. Okay? And that's it for vote by mail unless you have any other questions.
Any other questions for Barbara about vote by mail?
Did you, I'm sorry I was late, tell them about the very few number of dead ballots?
The dead ballot?
Yeah.
I haven't.
Okay, there are literally just a very small number.
And that would be probably the 3.
Well, there was the one that you said was dropped into the box without an envelope.
Oh.
So you can see the buckets up there, and this bucket, the rack closest to us has a black on the top, and black is, we can't do anything about it. And I think Assemblymember Constant is right. There are 3 ballots that were dropped in all of the drop boxes with just the security sleeve and the ballot, and we can't count those. Because we
And we
don't
can't
know.
contact them to send them another ballot, or we can?
We can't because there's no envelope,
Oh,
no
that's right.
return envelope, so I can't
Oh,
count
yeah,
those.
ballots are anonymous.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
So I can't count them. I need that outer envelope.
It's a learning process.
And let me tell you, one of the things that's happened, I have had a voter that came in and was really concerned about his signature on the outside of the envelope, and we came up with a system where he is going to go to an accessible vote center. He said, I don't mind signing the register. He's going to sign the register and have the election worker witness his X. So I can take care of anybody that doesn't want to sign on the outside of the envelope.
Mr. Trainee?
Barbara, thank you for handling that one gentleman that had a complaint. You sent the response to all of us. I contacted the guy. He's happy now. He got the vote.
Okay.
Yeah, I contacted him
He
too.
said he just didn't know that he could drop in the white box in the library.
Oh,
He
okay.
said not the one from the books, but the other one.
Yeah.
I went there yesterday and dropped a couple off for friends of mine, so it does work.
So that just reminds me of a question. Has anyone put their ballot in the book return at the library? Have we had that happen yet?
No, we have not.
Because I actually had someone tell me that they almost did that, and they caught themselves at the last minute, and so that made me think that maybe someone might do that.
So the ABC workers and the library, they know about if there is ballots to contact us right away, and we'll send workers out to go get them. And then also over at Eagle River, ABC, they have a library right there, and then Girdwood also has a library for the drop box. There's a library in that center, so they're all fully aware of what to do in that situation.
All right, fantastic.
Question.
Mr. Dunbar.
So I have a few questions. So what percent of our ballots are coming in through the drop boxes?
Did you know that is a great question? It looks like more than 50% are coming through the mail.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yes.
So far.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
okay.
think I
Election
got,
day, probably lots
do you
of
see
buses.
a report, does anybody see my little report here? Okay,
Yeah, I have a
Okay,
couple
sorry.
other questions.
Okay.
First. Okay, great. How many are we getting per day? Ballots per day?
well, it's around 4,000 to 6,000 a day, which,
Oh, wow.
you know,
I thought it was 3,000.
we were expecting a slump after the weekend, and today looks, I don't know what day it is, unfortunately. I think it's Wednesday.
It's
So they are
Wednesday.
starting to all run together.
Sure.
But I think that we thought we'd have a good on Monday and then down, and today, and I think it's a little down, but not like what I expected.
My people always come late. I just was betting on the late, and I saw the line at the PFD office, and I think they were doing that, and then
Especially when I think it's 2700.
So, that's great. There was an erroneous blogger today said that the vote was low. You can guess who it is. Who's the number one purveyor of fake
Okay,
news in our state?
we're not going to say it on
Anyway,
the record.
she said, I'm going to say it on the record, she spreads fake news, and she said that that the vote return was very low, but it doesn't appear that is the case. I mean, if those numbers hold,
It's on track.
we are definitely on track. My last question is, what's the time frame for counting? I had somebody ask me this yesterday, about what percent of the votes will be able to count on Tuesday night, was basically their question.
So I think, I'm going to get out of your way, Eric. So I think the way it's going to work, and I think we're getting the routine down here pretty good. They're running the stuff through, we're trying to get the mail, the drop boxes, and the accessible vote centers processed by 1 o'clock, all right? And then we start doing the hard work, which is dealing with the check.
1 o'clock p.m. or 1 o'clock
Yeah,
p.m.?
1 o'clock p.m.
So 1 o'clock p.m. on the day
down
of.
on the 3rd.
So I'm just going to tell you how we're processing. So every day,
every
the
day,
mail and everything comes in, and then we process everything until 1 o'clock. Then we do the hard work, and then it has to go through again to get to the green buckets for envelope opening. And so you can see there, they've got about probably 2 days worth of work already in there. So we're working this Saturday. We're going to do a press release that we're full staff on Saturday. And we're going to pick up drop boxes. We can't pick up mail, I don't think. So we're going to try and get caught up. But then all of those over there on that green page are all ready to run. Those are all open and ready to go. So I think on election day, we're going to have all the mail from the morning. We'll process all of that. We'll have some new green stuff. We'll get as far as we can through this, and we'll work until, 8 o'clock at night. And whatever we can get through, we'll get through.
And but we're going to empty the drop boxes.
In the morning.
I thought we were going to do 2 or 3 empty.
Oh yes. So we'll open, if it's really busy, we'll go again in the afternoon, and then we go at 8 o'clock at night. So and then all of the accessible vote centers will bring stuff back at 8 at night. We're not going to run that on election day.
Oh, we're not. Okay.
No, because
So we're not running the things that are dropped on election day. We're not going to run it.
that is correct. We'll run the morning stuff, and we may run stuff at noon, but we won't do the final pickup at night. Because then I have to have people here until midnight.
Won't count the final pickup. We'll get the
Count
final pickup.
everything that was received the day before. So most of election day stuff that's come to the accessible vote centers or the drop boxes between, afternoon and 8 p.m. will not be counted until the day after the election.
So, I mean, that could be a sizable chunk. If we're like other places, a lot of people do vote after work on the day of at the drop boxes.
I agree with you.
But it would be a sizable chunk. But if we've already got 30,000 votes, and by election day we'll have 50,000 maybe, then we're talking 80%, 70 or 80% probably will be counted on election day of the total ballots in the election.
I think that's probably a fair estimate.
And then when will we release the results? Like what time of night? will the
8:30 or
results come
something,
out?
right?
Yeah, everything, we stop at 8, and then we'll publish results we think it'll take until about 8:30.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Trainee.
Mud should have called me if they wanted me to walk him through how to vote myself. It's a constituent of mine. So, virtually we tore the album apart, told him what he needed to do, and told him how to put a security sleeve, and to put an envelope and put a stamp on it. I thought it was kind of good. As a state legislator, city legislator, I just had to do this.
Good.
State legislator?
Yeah, in my district. He's in Juneau right now.
Okay. Well, he was doing it because he was going to pass the information along to his constituents?
That's
or-
one himself was voting.
Oh, all right. Well, I guess I didn't realize it was that difficult to comprehend, but
Well, he asked me, so I walked him through it.
amazing.
So, Mr. Dunbar, I'm going to give you this report
Facebook,
right
so what,
here.
you know,
This is yesterday's
FaceTime.
report.
Oh.
And you can tell, I want that one back. That's my number, so that's not a public. But you can figure out your percentages.
These are
Those are the totals by mail source.
and this
Yeah.
DB is Dropbox.
Yeah, so you would take your 18,000 divided by the
Oh, I got it.
number.
It's USPS.
And so, we have a tour scheduled for tomorrow of the election center, is that correct? Tomorrow's the
Thursday.
29th, I believe?
Yes.
She's in charge of tours?
They just tell me where to go and where to be.
Okay.
Bartlett is.
Because I've been telling, when I'm giving my reports at community councils, I've been mentioning that if anybody would like to take a tour, the 29th was one of those days it was available. So,
Okay. And I'll try and go run another one of those reports if you don't have any other questions about vote by mail.
Yeah.
all right, are there any other questions or comments about vote by mail, and then we'll move on to our next item on our agenda?
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Amy. All right, well, let's go to Dee Ennis, and she can talk us through removing people from boards and commissions
Bernard Clark and
with
Bartlett all
cause.
as well.
Okay, I wondered if Mr. Constant might want to do that, because this is at his bequest, although I wrote it for him.
Fairview's.
Okay,
Yep, thank you.
Either way,
I'm ready, Dee. So,
okay.
all right, Mr. Constant.
I don't actually have a printed draft copy in front of me, but some time ago, even before I was elected to the Assembly, it became clear that on a very rare occasion there might be a reason to remove somebody from a board or a commission that's been nominated and confirmed. And it turned out that the only way that could occur is by attendance, or attendance according to the code as it's written. And so I set about a process to figure out a methodology to fairly review any case that might come before us where an individual might not be fit to serve on a municipal board or commission. And so before you is a proposal that essentially originates from a member or the mayor's office, goes to the Ethics Commission. The Ethics Commission makes a recommendation, and the Assembly acts on the question. And the Assembly acts with the mayor's office. This is a rare case where both branches have to sign on for the action to be affirmed. And so there's a draft before you, and the discussion of having it for the Ethics and Election Committee is really the next stop before introduction. So.
All right, well, thank you. Do we have any questions from the member? Mr. Trainee?
Dee?
Yep.
Dick Training. Are you sufficiently confident with this process that meets ethical requirements, ma'am?
Yes, I am.
Okay. That's my only question. You have known you for
We
years.
ran it
You've
through
been
the
all
ethics
meetings.
board, by the way.
You what, ma'am?
We did bring this all to the ethics board. In fact, they had a big discussion about the standards, and so they were on board with it. What we're trying to do, obviously, is you don't want to humiliate volunteers, citizen volunteers, but we have had a couple instances where board behavior has really been problematic, and we really had the administration as well had no way to address that.
Yeah. We had some boards that couldn't function because people just wouldn't show up.
Right. So,
Thank you, Dean.
and the theory behind having both houses, both branches of the government to have to affirm the question is, so the intent is that this not become a political tool for removing your opponents and your enemies. And we want to make sure, and the conversation at the Ethics Board was, well, maybe then we raise the standard to 8 members of the Assembly. Or maybe a recommendation of the Ethics Board, and then just 1 member of the mayor's team and 1 member of the Assembly have the final say. But I think that the Assembly should be involved in the question because the Assembly confirms these individuals. And so I don't want to create a process that avoids our watch. I want to make sure that we're involved in the conversation.
Chris, years ago, we required administration to show us what the attendance factor is.
Right.
Because years ago, they didn't even tell us who showed up and didn't show up to meetings.
Right.
And we were getting complaints, hey, this person hasn't showed up in a year. So that's the reason now they have to tell us when they come up for renewal or something, their attendance at every meeting. So we know if there's you showing up.
Right.
Hey, Dee. So it's Eric. Is there any other? This is an odd provision. I see why you did it, Chris, but it's strange. So a majority plus, it's like a super veto. Then we consider it. We say yes, we think this should be removed, and then the mayor says I agree or disagree, and that's just it. If he or she doesn't, it's just not done.
Well, it's on both sides. If you don't get a majority of the Assembly, regardless of what the mayor wants to do, it fails as well.
So, the mayor sort of has a veto on this, then?
No, it didn't have a veto, but
He already
both
does.
sides. Go ahead, Chris.
The mayor already has a veto at 6 or 7 votes, right?
Yeah, but now he has it at 0. I mean, well, he has it at
Exactly.
Whenever she
And
wants.
the intent was to establish a process that was really above politics and is based on issues of performance. A specific example I have, and just as a prerequisite to this conversation, I don't have an individual in my mind that I'm working to eject from a board or a commission, and the point of doing this now is so that it's in a time when passions are cool and there's no question before us. But so that if the question is ever asked, we're prepared. And there was an individual representing the Muni as the chair of a commission that had to do a lot with liaising with the state, and the state had banned this person from entering their office buildings. And there was no way for the staff or the executive to remove this person, and that is an untenable situation.
Okay, but I'm just getting into the detail. Is there any other provision that looks like this, that has this sort of super veto?
Mr. Cross, I don't think so, but the other thing that I proposed to Mr. Constant, who wasn't sure about whether he would like to follow that path, was why don't we just let, for instance, the Ethics Board make the recommendation and then it goes to the clerk and it gets done? Do we really need all this super protection by having the Assembly and the mayor in an executive session? This is just, it's a board member. And do we really need all this formality of process? Really, we're also trying to protect the board member from embarrassment. And certainly if the Ethics Board makes a recommendation, but typically the Ethics Board their action is always a recommendation and all their other stuff as well.
Okay, and that was my second question. The remain confidential, we usually don't vote in executive session, and
Exactly.
an executive session is under control of the person who is the subject of it. So normally we understand to say, it's confidential unless they say, I want to